Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a special guest with me. Her name is Jackie.
Hi
Do you want to
guys.
give us a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Jackie Borrego and I am living in San Antonio, Texas. I am a school psychology graduate student. I'm coming into my second year and I attend Texas State University. I'm loving the program so far. I think for anybody who's in graduate school, it's kind of a shock whenever we start the program because we're all pretty we come in for it for one reason and then our whole world expands. But I don't only do that. I go to school full time, but I also have a podcast too. Since I love people and I love education, I thought that the best way I could talk to more people was through a podcast. It's called the More Like Podcast, and it's basically just a way for people to connect through shared experiences. I think that the best way to learn about yourself is to learn from others. So I found Tiffany in my own little search and starting my own little Instagram and finding a lot of school psychology resources. So I am super happy to be here.
Awesome. I really love what you're doing with the podcast, and I will leave your link or podcast down in the description box below, so please go and check it out. And we may have a future episode coming up where I'm a special guest on it. So
we'll probably we talked a little bit about like maybe grad school, imposter syndrome, especially that we're starting the new year. So I'm hopeful that it will be great for all of your viewers to kind of consume media in a little bit of a different way.
So today's video will be about finances and how to pay for grad school. This one's a question that I've had so many times. How do you pay for grad school? It's so expensive, it's so costly, is it worth it? And so we're going to be sharing our own experiences and then maybe some other methods that you can consider. There's a lot of options out there. It really depends on your situation, what kind of person you are, your personality. And so hopefully this will be helpful for you. You can kind of take whatever information you need or you want, and yeah, we'll just be sharing what we know and how we're paying for school.
Yeah, add it to your financial tool belt, because as we've gotten older, I mean, I think both Tiffany and I will talk more about it, but we're both non-traditional graduate students. And so these are conversations that we wish probably people would have had with us whenever we were young students, where we were contemplating going back to graduate school, professionals in the field. So even if this doesn't exactly apply to you, because our situations are all different, we are all unique beings, hopefully you can pick and choose or pull different things and learn a little bit more about your own situation through things we share today.
I know, Jackie, you had a very different experience than I did paying for grad school. So do you want to go ahead and share what you've done and how you're paying for grad school?
So I touched on it a little bit before, right? I'm a non-traditional student. So I graduated from undergraduate from UT Austin in 2014. And then I actually went back to get a first master's degree in special education, thinking that that was a way for me to kind of get into the special education field. At the time, I was on a different career path. And then I taught as a special education teacher for 2 full years. So I went to graduate school, did some part-time work, taught for full 2 years. And then I found school psychology. A lot of my students, I was in a preschool, were getting ready for evaluation for public school. And I was really confused as to like how we bridge that gap. Like, who did we talk to and who did they talk to make sure that they were getting the most resources? And lo and behold, it's a school psychologist. You kind of get to like follow students from the start of their special education journey to whenever you end in whatever field you're in, whether it's early childhood, middle school, or high school. So I knew that this was something I was really interested in, and I went back to school. Luckily, I got admitted, and me and my husband at the time were in transition in cities, and he actually took a lower paying job because he was a little bit unhappy with his situation, and the plan was for me to work as a teacher. And so we were comfortable taking that lower paying job. But then I got into graduate school, and it's a full-time program, and that's something that both Tiffany and I talked about. Like, a lot of these programs, it is hard to work full time. If you can figure that out, great. But for me in my program, I couldn't. And so I knew I needed to find a graduate assistantship to help supplement some of the income that I was losing. Well, a lot of the income that I was losing. So I went ahead and applied for a graduate research assistantship within my department. I was admitted to that, which was really awesome. It not only provided me some monetary cushion, but it also provided me an experience with my professor, a great way to kind of get the foot in the door with some research projects, and also learn that school psychology is not this ancillary thing where you only do school psychological things. Like, my professor was involved in research where we were communicating with people from Vietnam and about helmet study, just about a bunch of different things and basically overall health of children. So I did that. And then, like I said, I took out federal loans. So that was a big way that I paid for my tuition. I will say that me and my husband made the decision to only take out the bare minimum of what I needed to cover for my tuition costs. So I didn't take out any more. I didn't take out any less. Books I covered on my own. School supplies covered on my own. I commute, so any gas I cover on my own. All those extra things I do on my own. So yeah, graduate research assistant was me, and federal loans.
Awesome. Can you kind of describe the process of getting federal loans? Is it like a really taxing process, or? Yes. Thanks for being honest. Because I'm sure a lot of people they get scared or they get, it's
overwhelming. No, absolutely. It's super overwhelming. And I will say that reach out to your financial aid department. They have people that can help walk you through the process. If nobody in your family has gone to higher education, if nobody in your direct relationships have gone to higher education or even gotten loans. I know for me, I was telling Tiffany prior to this, like, my undergraduate was paid for by my parents, which is such a huge blessing. So applying for loans was a completely new thing, and I was a little bit embarrassed being a 24-year-old, not really knowing how to apply for a federal loan. But honestly, like, when you go to FAFSA online, which I'm actually going to look up what that stands for, you fill that out. It's a lot of basically like information, if you've previously worked, how much you owe, how much you have, how much debt you currently have. And then at the very end, it basically spits out this number of what you qualify for. And that's what I was mentioning. Like, even though I qualified for X amount of money, I made sure I didn't want to have to pay that whole amount off when I was done with graduate school. I wanted to only take out the least that I possibly could. Again, that like pre-planning piece that I needed to in order to pay for my tuition. Does that answer your question? Is that helpful?
Yeah. No, I think even like directing them to the website and then giving a couple steps or giving an overview of what it is super helpful.
Okay, cool.
And then on top of federal loans, I know you also talked about scholarships when we were planning this video. And scholarships I feel like it's a huge part of getting money for school.
Yeah.
But it's also overwhelming because there's so many out there and a lot of people don't know the process or, where to even start.
Yeah, honestly, all the daunting things, just come to your girl Jackie because I do them all.
That's why you're here.
No, yeah, I did. Again, I previously touched on, me and my husband, we took a large pay cut. I stopped working full time. He took a pay cut. And so I kind of made it my mission. Like, I wanted to contribute to the family. And I thought, okay, what are ways I can do this? I'm going to spend time and effort into scholarships. So I will say my first year, I was applying to scholarships, but I wasn't really getting them. It took a lot of time and effort and energy. But then I started getting them. And that was super rewarding and incredibly gratifying. And, for every scholarship that I spent, let's say like 30 hours on, for whatever amount I got, let's say it was like $50 per hour of me working on the scholarship. So for me, that cost benefit was worth it. Also, like, Texas State has a really great program where like they have a financial aid counselor, an external funding counselor specifically. So I'm able to reach out to them and tell them I'm interested in applying to the NASP minority scholarship, and they're able to look at all the criteria with me, help me formulate essays, answer my questions best for that scholarship. So I also don't feel like I'm going through it alone. And two, it's like I have a built-in accountability partner through the university. So again, I would highly encourage, if you have questions, reach out to your advisors if you have a financial aid department, or even through your university scholarship department, you might not know what you have access to that you're already paying for in tuition, I might add, that can really, really benefit you. And I will say I've received over $3,500 in scholarships, and I'm waiting to hear back from another really big scholarship that's $5,000. And so I'm getting super close to paying my second year fully off. And I hope that's just encouragement. It is really hard getting no's, but when you get those yeses and like the way that you prepare your application for the first big one, you're able to kind of like cut and edit and formulate really good responses for your next ones too. So you're never starting from zero anytime. So I hope that is a little bit encouraging for you guys out there. You don't have to start at zero all the time, because if you have a great essay, you can kind of like manipulate it to your next scholarships.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you make. I think a lot of universities actually have resources for their students, so you should definitely go and research, see what's out there. And I mean, I'm so excited for you that you've gotten these scholarships. And I know I've said this before, but you're such an inspiration. I know I've gone on this scholarship journey during undergrad, and it was very discouraging.
Yes.
You know, I've tried a couple times. It's so much work.
Yes.
And it's so discouraging when the results come out and you don't get them. But like you said, if you just keep trying and you go and get the advice you need, it's possible. And there's so many opportunities out there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think too, like, we hope that you hear this and like you aren't scared to ask questions, because I think whenever you're planning your financial journey through graduate school, like there is no shame in whatever questions you have around your finances. That's what we're here for, and that's what your university's departments are there for too. So you're absolutely right about that, Tiffany.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. Are you going to hop into yours?
Yeah, sure. I can briefly go over mine. I think I've mentioned it like a couple times. I never really went into depth, but basically for me, I didn't really know I wanted to go to graduate school, but I knew I wanted to do something after undergrad, whether it was opening a business or going to higher education. And so I started saving money while I was working full time, because I took 3 gap years from undergrad to grad school. And during those years, I was living at home. And I think that's another big factor. If you can save money in any way, do so. You know, whether it's roommates or whether it's cooking at home, all of those little things, they add up. And living at home with parents is a huge one. So I saved a lot of money that way. And then I saved enough to pay for the first 2 semesters of grad school. And then during my first 2 semesters, I also worked full time. I had 2 jobs. I was really hustling, and I did burn out. But those 2 semesters when I worked really hard and I had those full-time jobs, I did save up enough to pay for my next few semesters. I can't say it was easy, but I can say it was possible. So I don't want anyone to be discouraged if you do plan on working during grad school, but you have to make sure your job is flexible enough that you can work and go to school.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you think I'm inspiring, and I know I've shared this with you before, but that story is incredibly inspiring to me too. And I think the fact that you were able to have foresight, again, this planning piece, right, of like, I know I want to go to school, I don't know exactly what I want to do, or I want to open a business, but I don't know what that looks like. Let me start saving and saving and saving. It's like, even if it's $50 every paycheck or whatever that looks like for you, it will add up. And now I feel like banks and however you store your money, it's so easy to create a savings account for specific things. So that is such a great tip. And honestly, I think that like moving forward, whenever you are trying to plan out things, like doing little things like that actually do really matter.
Yeah, I can't believe I did it, but it feels great coming out on the other side. And I just want to add, I didn't talk about this before, but my university in particular, they're really huge on the College of Education. We have a lot of teachers coming out of the program. We have very strong districts in this area. And so they have a program, like a discount program that they provide educators. And so if you work, I think like a certain number of hours, and they give you like a 15% discount on your tuition, which is huge. And so I took that opportunity because I was working in a private school, and that helped me a lot too. So you just have to, you know, research, find things out. Like that's specific to your university or specific to your field, and it'll work out.
And I think too, like we've talked about briefly, kind of like implicitly, like ask your faculty. That's what they're there for. One of the beauties about coming to graduate school for school psychology is most programs are pretty small. And so your faculty is there to not only teach you, but to guide you and to mentor you. And so if you are struggling or you're trying to figure out opportunities, let them know. And two, like, just as you want your job, if you are planning on working part-time or full-time or some of the way, like let your faculty know that too, because they're going to be way more understanding than you think. And nobody wants you to drown when you're at this level. Everybody wants you to be successful. And similar to you, Tiffany, like I've had a lot of classmates that worked that first year full-time. And then, they ended up finding other opportunities to supplement the income within the College of Education. But my faculty and our faculty was incredibly supportive. So reach out to them too and let them know what's going on or what your expectations and desires are when it comes to scholarship opportunities or research assistant opportunities, because then they'll keep you in mind too.
That is such a good point that you make, because they have those connections within the school and they can give you so many resources. And this is kind of going to lead us to what we're going to talk about next, the other options that you have. And so I know you touched upon assistantships when you were sharing your story, but I know a lot of people also get assistantships that cover their full tuition and then also pay a stipend. And so a lot of programs kind of support that so that you don't have to work somewhere else, so that you can focus on school. And it's usually in some kind of department in your university. And I think a lot of people either they browse or get emails from the university, or they reach out to their faculty and they get resources that way.
Yeah, no, for sure. I have a couple of my classmates not covering their full tuition, but don't think that it's only limited to the College of Education, the school psychology graduate department. I have classmates that have assistantships within the college or within the program of special education or within the College of Social Work. So there's a bunch of different opportunities out there. And if your university has the option for a specialist level or an EDS level to get a full paid tuition and all you have to do is help a professor out, do it. Do it. Like there are these cost benefits. And yes, you may be worried about handling schoolwork. Yes, you may be worried about time. But I think both Tiffany and I can tell you that the work that you put in on the front end is definitely going to benefit you on the back end. So making those hard decisions and sacrifices, like you really won't regret doing them.
Yep, 100% agree. Do you have anything to say about grants or fellowships?
So I don't really know too much about grants or fellowships. I've kind of done some looking into like doctoral programs, and that's kind of where I see them mainly. Similar to what you were saying, like you can apply to them and then get your entire program paid for, but it's either attached to some sort of like research thesis or some sort of like specific interest. So for me at my level, I didn't really see any opportunities about that. I will say that the cohort that's coming in behind me had a really awesome program built in with the special education program. It was called the Project Parrot. And again, I go to Texas State. I don't know if we're going to do this again, but 5 students between special education and school psychology were getting their entire tuition paid for, a brand new computer, books, everything basically covered and paid for. Yeah. No, it's amazing. And
what do they have to do?
They had to apply for the program, and then if they got admitted, they got extended an interview. And like we said, our programs are small, right? And from there, they got kind of vetted. And now they're going to have like a mentor within the second years of the program. It's a really awesome program. And I think that they're only liable to have to teach at a Title I school for a couple of years postgraduate. And so again, so worth it. So like Tiffany said, do the research, ask the faculty, because I don't think that we really advertised that program because it was just a whim. We got a grant, and one of my faculty members, Dr. Lasser, started this program, and we don't know if we're going to get funding again for it, but there may be opportunities like this in your universities that just kind of happen on a whim.
Yeah, you can get lucky sometimes. Yeah. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I know. All of us were like, dang, would we go back and do first year again? And we were like, no.
Nah. I'm with you on that one. First year, it was tough.
Yeah. Yeah, but all of you out there, you'll make it through.
Yeah. As we're like drowning. Okay. Yeah. So when I did some research about grants, I know a lot of undergraduate students get grants from the government. So it's kind of harder to find as graduate students, but there are some groups that advocate for, grants, and I think that's like a lot of minority groups
Yeah.
or groups that want more diversity in
Mhm.
higher education. So definitely look into them. And then also, yeah, fellowships, you mentioned, a lot of it's research based and you have to put in those hours. But I think it's also great experience, and usually it's a lot of money and a stipend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also want to talk about private loans because that is another option, but definitely you want to do your research because it could get expensive.
Yeah, you want to make sure that the interest rates are worth it, right? So if you are going to go between a private and a federal loan, just look at the interest rates. And basically, what an interest rate is how much money accrues on whatever amount of money that you take out, how much it's going to get taxed on a yearly or monthly or weekly, however they kind of categorize it basis. So that's essentially what interest is. And you just want to make sure that you are getting the best interest rate possible because these are large loans.
Right. Yep, that's a really good point. And then also work benefits. I don't know whom this could apply to, but some companies will pay you to go and get your degree. And that could be partial tuition, that could be full tuition, it could be a private school that you're working for, so that could be another avenue for you. And then also military benefits. This could be another option for you. So I know Jackie had a
I
resource
do.
for you guys.
Yeah, I do. He is at the grad school dad, and we'll put his information in the link in bio. He has a couple of YouTube videos out there. He has an Instagram, but he's one of my classmates in my program, and he is going to school on a VA loan. And so, for those of you who are ex military or your family's military, if they've never used this, ask them if that's an option, if they'd be willing to share that with you because I think it can get transferred. I don't really know the logistics, but Jonathan is a great resource, and I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you guys more about that.
Thank you so much for sharing that resource.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess just the last few tips for paying for grad school in general, working, saving money. I know you want to talk about budgeting and how that's so important.
Yeah, so again, I'm married. You guys probably caught on to that by now, but since me and my husband, again, knew that we were going to be taking this big decrease in pay, we thought it was really important to kind of look at our overall budget. And so, what that looks like for us is we have an Excel spreadsheet and kind of breaks down everything by month, everything that we have coming in, and then everything that we also have coming out. And that includes my tuition, that includes books, it includes anything school related, gas. We kind of break it down really, really small just so we have a full picture. And honestly, it's been really, really helpful, especially because in this time too, like not only are we trying to make sure that we're prepared for whenever I'm done with graduate school so that we can start planning to pay back my loans, we're wanting to make sure that we're saving for that as well and trying our best to keep all of our costs as low as we can. So I would highly encourage wherever you are, whatever stage of life you are in, start with a small budget. It doesn't have to be very extensive like my budget is or mine and my husband's, but even just knowing like how much money does my job give me every single 2 weeks or every single month? And then how much am I spending on like the big ticket items, groceries? How much are you spending on your bills, your rent? Just so you can kind of start seeing. And then too, I think this really helps with the planning of like, you see that big amount that you can take out for loans and it's very tempting to want to take all of it. But then you kind of see like, okay, how much is like enough? Like what is enough to take, right? So I think the budget really helps with that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those tips. I think budgeting can be really hard and it's not really a skill that we learn in school. And so
No.
you also have to kind of go through it, you learn by
Yeah.
experience, and it'll really help you out.
Yeah, it's not going to be perfect at the beginning and it's going to be scary. Sometimes you'll feel like, oh my gosh, I'm in the red. But then other times you're like, wow, I'm in the green. We're making little progress. And just knowing that like incremental progress in whatever way you decide to save for graduate school or pay for graduate school is progress in itself.
I also wanted to touch upon side hustles. I know I made a video on side hustles before, but that's kind of how I got through some of grad school and even undergrad. I always had something going on, whether it was like tutoring, after I was done with schoolwork or work, or selling stuff online or working retail. All of those little opportunities can really help you out with money and finances in grad school.
Yeah, I currently am working part-time on the weekends, so I wanted something that was also going to be flexible with my school schedule during the week, and I was able to find something Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And yes, is it frustrating that it's on my weekend? Absolutely, but is getting that money at the end of each month helpful to my budget? 100%. So there's all these little sacrifices and big choices that you have to make, but when you make them, you'll be so happy you did in the long run. I think David and I talk a lot about like taking a step back right now so that we can see the benefits later on. And honestly, like you will never regret going to grad school. You will never regret bettering yourself in this way, whether it's within your career or with your relationships or with your faculty member or even just learning something new. Like you will not regret this time ever.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you make. You said it's always going to be worth it. I kind of came, like, before you made that point, I never really thought that way. For me, I'm like, is it really worth it? Is the amount of money and time I'm putting in worth how much I'm going to get paid later? And that's kind of how a lot of people view it. But if you have a different perspective, it could be just all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to really pick apart what are you learning? Not just, okay, how much is this going to make me later on, right? Because we don't come into education to be millionaires. Like that's just the cold hard truth. And if that's what you're looking for,
they're in the wrong field.
Like maybe this career is not for you. But no, but in all honesty, like I think when you really pick it apart and you get to build relationships, like we wouldn't have met each other if we weren't in this field. We weren't going to be able to have the opportunity to touch hopefully thousands of children's lives and families' lives, and the type of information that we are now learning and consuming that is going to help with the way we view the world and hopefully making the world a better place, I think is worth it. But again, like you said, it's perspective. But two, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be smart. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't communicate. You shouldn't communicate with your faculty members your needs. You shouldn't communicate if you are working part-time or trying to work part-time or trying to work full-time while in grad school. You shouldn't communicate with them. That they're your allies. Everybody's your ally. I think the beautiful thing about grad school is like you're not alone and you're not meant to do it alone. Now, if you're in an online program, it may look a little bit different, and this also may not apply to you. You may be able to work full time. But these are just all little tips and tricks that we've kind of used to help us. And honestly, like talking to the people that you are helping so that they can help you back is super imperative.
Yeah. So if this is the right time for you to go to grad school, and if you have a way to pay for it and you're really passionate about it, I think you should go for it. It's going to be worth it. And you will make money, but you shouldn't be in it just for the money. You'll be impacting so many students and families. And I'm excited for my internship year. I'm sure you're excited to start your second year and then get the ball rolling.
Yeah. And honestly, like, just know that whoever is in your cohort, like they become your family, and you'll feel this sense of pride of going through this program and going through something so difficult together. And don't let money be the reason to stop you or to question, like, should I go? I'm not going to be able to afford this. I'll leave you guys with a piece of advice that my mom gave me from a very young age. Like, don't let money be the reason to stop you from doing anything in your life, especially education, because education is an equalizer and nobody can ever take that away from you. So I hope this was encouraging. Nothing like finances with some self-esteem, confidence boosting.
Well, thank you so much for being here today, Jackie. I hope this is really helpful for whoever's watching. If you're looking into going to grad school, if you got into a program, if you're in school psych, wherever you are, hope this is helpful for you guys. And we'll see you guys next time. We'll see you guys on the podcast.
Yeah, see you on the podcast. Follow me at More Like Podcast on Instagram. I don't really talk much school psych stuff, but I do talk a lot of life stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy. And if you do have any suggestions about what me and Tiffany should talk about, let us know. But again, more grad school. I've always wanted to do that.
All right, bye guys.